Hey guys, thanks for being here. Excited to get down to Florida and continue this season. I think just a neat moment for everybody to spend some time together. Obviously there's been 11 days or whatever it was from when it was, that we got to prepare for all of this, and just excited. Some guys are returning back home to Florida, to their homeland, which will be nice for them to see their families. And then some of our guys, Eric O'Neill and a couple others, have family that have relocated down in that area, which is also pretty neat to have a little family reunion down there for some of them. But very excited about this opportunity, really excited about the potential of winning this first bowl game in school history, and anytime it could be part of something that's a first, you're excited about that. So excited to get to work.
How has the preparation kind of changed now that you know who you are facing in that game?
Yeah, well, I mean, before it was ultimately about us going back and, like we did in the bye weeks, us focus on ourselves, and then imagine when they get your film, what are they going to attack, and just trying to cure that up as we typically do. That's what it was. Now we obviously know the opponent, so we can get a lot more specific in our preparation.
I'm curious what you saw at a practice from Billy and JC, and if you've sort of made a decision yet
On
who's going to be starting against Western Kentucky.
Yeah, Billy is been our backup for the past bunch. Dylan obviously has had his issues, and with his arm, where he really couldn't hold the ball for a little while, so he had surgery as well. So Billy's been right there and ready to go. He's taken a ton of reps, and he's really excited about his opportunity.
How nice is it to have a guy like Billy on the roster that has been with this program for several years now and can step in when Alonzo went down?
Yeah, I think it's great, and he's been here the whole time, all the way through. He's watched, Alonzo go through his, beginning of his career. He's had his opportunity as well, and I think, they both wish they could have a lot back from their original, attempts, and they came out and did a really good job. What Zoe's done this past year, I think, has been really good, and I'm excited for Billy to get his shot. He works so hard. He is in the meeting room. He is constantly asking questions and giving us different insight into what he likes and the way he sees things. And he's an old, Dean will talk a little bit more about, but he's an old soul in there, and he does a really good job of handling it all with a ton of maturity, and sees the game at a really high level.
Just to kind of follow up with Zoe, is that something that's injury related, or is it something else?
What's that?
With his unavailability?
No, injury, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know one of the things coaches talk about a lot is kind of the value of having extra practices and playing one more game for a bowl game, and just the importance of kind of getting extra reps. On a big picture, is that something you value, or how important is that, getting that extra practice time?
Yeah, if you were done right now, we really had a lot of younger guys. The past two games we had, or past two practices that we had last week, they were all younger guys. So the chance for those guys to continue to develop and them to build their confidence. And when you think about those guys, a lot of the year they spent it on the scout team. They spent a lot of their reps just doing other people's offense. So to watch them have a chance to compete, film it, then they came back and met with our coaches, their position coach, but then the younger coaches as well were hosting meetings for them and holding meetings for them, which I think is really important in their development as well. So I think then you get our other guys out there and you get back into situational football, you get back into continuing to sharpen things up, and obviously with the different guy behind the center, it's really important that we worked on all those things throughout last week and now heading into this. But in general, anytime you have a chance to put more practices in there, it's a good thing. You just got to watch that you don't overdo it and try to turn it into an extra hard week of, this is a big bonus, the fact that we're playing this bowl game. And I think we really got to make sure that we keep this fast-paced, exciting, and make sure that we're all really positive and excited to get down there and play.
And obviously, it's kind of the time of year where it's open season and guys kind of exploring their options of whether they're coming or going.
Yep.
What are those conversations like kind of behind the scenes? Are you kind of like with the guys, hey, I need to know if you're in or out because we do have a game to prepare for? What does that kind of look like?
No, I think we're in a good spot. I think, there's guys that have chosen to go in, and I think that is ultimately up to them. We had those conversations really after the last game. I think everybody that came out of those first couple days after the Marshall game, we feel is committed to being in this bowl game and continuing to be part of this team.
Yeah, Western Kentucky, they've had some games where they've allowed big rushing totals.
Yeah.
With Alonzo Barnett being now a guy that's, taking a lot of carries out of the quarterback spot, how do you think the game plan may change not having him and having Billy start?
Well, I think Billy does a lot of similar things. Dean could jump in there and answer some of that, but I think Billy does a lot of similar things that Zoe does. You know, they're both very good quarterbacks. I think our run game, you know, over the past couple of weeks has been really good as well, and I think those are things we're gonna have to lean on. But you know, what Billy does in the run game, or what Zoe does, Billy can do, and JC will have shots in there to be able to get on the field as well.
Do you think it's also a benefit, you know, with Joby Mallory's 106-yard game last week, that he's kind of maybe proved a little bit more as well?
Yeah, and like I said after that game, Joby just got hot. You know, it was a downhill style of football that needed to be played in that Marshall game, and we were able to do that, and he was the guy that just took over. When you think about Joby, you know, he carried the ball 4 or 5 times a game in short yardage situations. He'd get 2 or 3. Well, he took 2s and 3s and turned them into 8s and 10s and had one big one. It just was a moment where you needed to feed him a little more. So I can imagine that being the same case. All these guys understanding that the run game's got to be a big part of what we do offensively this week.
I want to talk to Dean about this too, but can you just talk about the progress of Billy and JC and how they've come throughout this year? Obviously, with Dylan having some injuries, also Billy's had to be thrust into a little bit different role. But can you just talk about their progress?
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job, and Billy has been, you know, preparing like the starter. And every single day he walks in that meeting room, he has ideas. You know, he speaks very well. When we have a quarterback and wide receiver meetings, he leads a lot of those. He just does such a good job as a leader, as an older guy. You know, he acts like an older guy. He prepares like an older guy. He does it very maturely, like a pro, and I'm excited for him to be able to have his moment. JC's still young, but JC brings a lot to the table as well. I mean, as you know, he's a bigger kid. We put him in situations in game when we needed some short yardage, and he was able to, you know, produce for us. So, you know, he's preserved his red shirt, which is great, but, you know, to see him out on the field would be, you know, definitely something that's possible coming up here.
Talk a little bit about Western Kentucky and just what you've seen early on in your preparation for them.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to get back to this multiplicity on defense. You know, they blitz from all different places. They do a lot of different things. You know, coverage-wise, they're not afraid to blitz corners and overload and play zero. They do a lot out there on defense. Now, they've given up a bunch in the run game, and I think, again, it's like what we talked about with ODU. When you're going to blitz as heavily as you do, there's going to be some things that open up and leave you an opportunity for us to maybe hit a big play in the run game or pass game. When you get to their offense, you know, they were rotating through quarterbacks. They landed on number 10 right now, Veltkamp, who's a big kid with a great arm and really in tune with his receivers. And there's 3 really, really good receivers out there. Quick, fast, all option routes. They do a good job of, you know, as soon as they turn, that ball is showing up on them. They know when it's man. They know what they need to do and how to sit down in zones. And they really do a good job of mixing up the offense. There's screens in there, there's empties and there's motions all the time. They do a whole bunch, and then they can run the ball. Number 3 at tailback, and there's other guys in there, 9. There's a bunch in there that are really, really physical in the run game. So this, you know, and then their kicker, I don't know if you watched him at all, but I think he's 5 for 5 on kicks over 50 yards. So they'll throw him out there and attempt 50-plus yard field goals, and he's been 5 for 5 on those on the year. And then, you know, kick returners, one of the receivers. They're a very, you know, sound team. They lost to, you know, that the championship game is where they ended up losing that game. But the week before, they had 400-plus yards of offense. You know, they did not in that particular game. And I think the only other one they lost to was Liberty in conference. So it's a very good football team and one we're excited to go compete with.
Do you have any connection with anybody on their staff?
I don't. I think Coach Kennedy does, but I don't, no.
And then talk a little bit about how challenging it is right now preparing for a bowl game with the portal and the recruiting and everything like that. How challenging is that for you guys as a staff?
Yeah, it's a crazy balance. You know, as you go through, you're trying to be in game, you know, prep or game plan mode right now. That's what you're trying to do Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then you're gonna have to flip it a little bit and just make sure that you're prepared and getting yourself squared away. I think our recruiting department's doing a really good job of providing lists for us and getting things broken down a little bit more, making sure that we have an understanding of what's going on out there. And then our coaches, you know, are taking breaks every once in a while and spending a half hour doing that. Just part of the deal right now. So it's an interesting time when all that hits at the same moment. So I think, what a great opportunity, you know, to be going and playing in this bowl game, you know, in a location where there's a couple of guys on our team and in family. And I just think a good spot for a lot of our fans to end up wanting to go down and support us at. They would do it anyway, I think, but now you do it in Boca. I think it's a little bit different. And then you add in the portal. And a year ago, we were patching it together with the portal, not 100% knowing what was even on our current roster at that time. And we knew we had to replace things, but we didn't even know what we really had. I think now the picture's a lot clearer and will be a whole lot better as we roll through this year.
What was what's kind of the excitement of the team when they found out that they were going to go down and play in Boca? And just, you've got a lot of veteran guys on this roster that some were here for just 1 year, but they want to make history and win the first bowl game. Is there a lot of excitement right now around this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I only saw them at the basketball game, as we were all walking in, because it was announced, the day before, and we were not together. We had a day off when it was announced, and then we saw them at the basketball game. I think everybody's really excited about it. So again, we're back here today, and we'll be back in an hour or so in the weight room and get all that, get moving forward with the week. So a good chance for them to recover, a good chance for them to get some time off, which I know they certainly appreciate, and now we just got to be able to get rolling here.
When you're staring down needing to use a different quarterback who hasn't been your starter all year, how much does it help to have a sixth-year senior at center like Tanner who has stepped up this year to be a vocal leader? How beneficial is it to have him on the offensive line?
Yeah, very beneficial. There's going to be a lot that ends up on Billy's plate here protection-wise, and to be on the same page with those guys. Billy is good with it, but to be on the same page and have that communication throughout the week with older guys. If it was sophomores and freshmen up there or guys in their first year only, they've been together for a little while now, so I think it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Billy's got a little bit of in-game action. Do you think he's got a good amount this year, and then do you think that's going to help him just in terms of the snaps that he has taken this year?
Yeah, I don't think he hasn't had many snaps this year. There's been 2 games where he's gotten a chance to get in there, but I think that it's more about what he does and how he prepares that we're excited about. There wasn't a lot of in-game necessarily reps for him. The one game, where he pulled the ball and scored and then threw another really nice slot fade, I thought those were 2 really good plays that he was waiting for his moment, and that showed up, and he was able to do something with it. I'm excited for him to be able to do a whole lot of that as we roll through this week and into the game.